Good evening, and welcome to Dan Bain's Sleepy Time Mumbles, a podcast you can miss. I'm Dan Bain, and every episode I improvise a low-stakes podcast for you to fall asleep to. My dear mumblers, I'm back on track, I think. I've got my schedule back under control. It will be back into some sort of semblance of a normal schedule. So thank you for your patience and your indulgence while other things distracted me. One of the other things that has been distracting me is I have been producing a limited series podcast of short stories by Laura Borrowdale. Laura's new collection of short stories is coming out shortly, and I've been recording and sound designing a limited series podcast of these stories from her first collection. The podcast is called Angry Ladies, Stories for Vengeful Women, and it is will be released on August the 31st, I believe. The first episode will come out, but you can listen to a trailer and subscribe right now, if that is something you would like to do. Harder to sleep to, probably, but nonetheless, another piece of work from the home of Mumbles. That's something you could do, but not now. For now, put down your phone, turn off your screens, and close your eyes. Now it's time to be mumbled to sleep. Season 6, Episode 12. Airports I Have Known. Part 2. Friends, I thought that Airports I Have Known was one and done. I thought it was a one-off episode. An episode I was pleased at the conceit of, but not one that I felt had the vim, the vigor, the staying power to be more than one episode. It wasn't going to be a Radiohead album from memory, or a pseudo-medieval sword adventure. thought it was one and done, but I was wrong. It's two and dune. Two duo and done. Two. For those of you that missed the first episode of AirPods, I have known, allow me to update you what I had thought would be all the airports I've known turned out to just be all of the domestic airports that I know in New Zealand. So apparently I know more about them, or I've been to more of them. I don't know. Anyway, let's talk more about some airports that I have known. We'll move to Australia. I have known a good number of airports in Australia. I think I am most familiar with Adelaide Airport, I want to say. No, that's not correct. I think I am most familiar with Sydney Airport. The reason that I'm making that mistake is that I think Adelaide Airport is the one that I've been at the most times, where that has been the end of the journey. Like, I've got out of the aeroplane into the airport and then, or into the airport and off and away. But I think if I consider the number of times I've been in Sydney as a transit location, then Sydney must be the one I'm most familiar with. All I can really, my most distinct memory of Sydney Airport, and this is not a proud memory, but is arriving there after a uncomfortable flight from London, where I had embarked on I hadn't gone to bed the night before. I got the flight, and part of the reason for that was chemical usage, and arriving in Sydney Airport and having a 5 hour layover before I could fly to Christchurch. It's very close. It's like a 4-hour flight. So frustrating. And this was when I used to smoke cigarettes as well. And realising that Sydney Airport didn't have, had kind of removed all its cigarette hospitality. And just being so miserable, kind of hungover and sleep deprived, and just super miserable in Sydney Airport. I hate to leave, like, when I'm in transit, like, you know how you can leave the airport, but you have to go through customs. I hate that, so I'm just going to hang out in the airport. Anyway. The last time I was in Adelaide Airport, I weirdly caught the bus to the airport with a old colleague of mine, Billy Kidd, magician, escapologist, because I was leaving the country and she was there as part of the Adelaide Fringe or the Adelaide Buskers Festival, which kind of aligns with the Adelaide Fringe, I'm not sure, but she had to go and perform at the airport, and I spent the whole drive out. I think, did we share a cab or something? I can't remember, but I spent the whole time mocking her as to what a terrible experience she was going to have trying to do a magic show at the airport. I've been in a lot of airports and I've never been like, boy, I wish I was watching a magic show right now. Just never. Otherwise, in Australia, I've definitely been in Perth Airport. No recollection of that. I've been to some weird airport right up the top of Australia, like some like Port Macquarie or I don't know, something. One up the top. Also Brisbane Airport. I flew out of Brisbane Airport age 19 after running out of money in Australia and having to sleep like at the outside on the street at the bus station. Like I had enough money to get the bus to the airport, but I'd arrived in Brisbane and I didn't have any money to like get a room. And I remember sitting on the bus station steps and the police coming by, being like, "What are you up to?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna catch the..." They're like, "All right, well, you can't sit on the steps out the front. You have to hide around the back." And I was like, "Okay." I remember that, and also being kept awake by bat. Like, I was trying to have a little sleep at the night time on a bench, like with my bag kind of like through my arms kind of thing. So like, I don't know, anyway, whatever. We do risky behaviours when we're youthful. And just being kept awake by bats, kind of crashing into the trees. Like, I always thought of bats as being nimble, dexterous, but no, they're just flying and then just kind of splat into the trees at high speed. And then I got the bus to the airport the next day, and then I remember I bought further down the spiral, because like I had no money, but I was getting paid from New Zealand, and then like some money arrived, and I had money to get to the bus, and I got to the airport. I was like, I'm going to buy myself a treat from the traumatic experience I've just had. And I was like, for some reason, bought Further Down the Spiral, which is a remix album of Nine Inch Nails' The Downward Spiral. And it blew my mind. Loved it. Yeah, it was great. Good album. Weird experience. I think that's all the Australian ones I've been to. I haven't been to any of the like central Australian ones, like, but I don't think there really are any. Like the middle of the desert ones. That's Australia. No Africa. No South America. Let's talk about Europe. I've been... So I get stuck in Frankfurt. Yeah. Maybe I did. I actually can't remember. I thought maybe it was America. Then I went to Frankfurt. Yeah, anyway. Frankfurt Airport. Sometimes you end up... That's like the... I don't know, sometimes you end up there by accident. I don't really have any recollections of that, but let's go back a step. Because when you're flying to Europe from New Zealand or Australia, you're going to stop either in, depending of course on what you're flying, but you're going to stop in Singapore, Dubai, Bangkok, Qatar. I've never done Qatar, but I know that is a stop. But I have done all the other ones, so let's talk very quickly about that. Bangkok Airport is nondescript. Hong Kong. Sometimes Hong Kong as well. Hong Kong if you're going to China. So, yeah, Bangkok is in nondescript. I've only done that one maybe once. And didn't rate it. Dubai Airport is real flash. It's very it's very constructed, and there's a lot of obviously a lot of money has gone into it. There's a lot of kind of fountains and kind of things like that. But it's also weirdly inefficient. It's an inefficient, it's a beautiful location, but it's an inefficient public building. There aren't enough lavatories in it. Like, I found that really peculiar. Very high ceilings. What else? I've done that a couple of times. Singapore airport is possibly the best airport in the world. Like, I mean, the fact that you even know that Singapore Airlines is a thing is kind of, I mean, they kind of built their economy around an airline in some ways. And they built an airport kind of to showcase, I guess, that. I mean, it's got a butterfly. There's a butterfly house. There's a movie theatre. There's it's kind of extraordinary. Love to go via Singapore. Also, tends to mean you're flying Singapore Airlines. Not a bad choice. Pretty strong service. I have very little recollection of. Oh no, I do. Hong Kong Airport is it's like a U shape. Is it one of those ones? Kind of a U shape. I just remember buying boxes of cigarettes there. Back in the days where I smoked cigarettes. And of course, Shanghai Airport. No, I didn't go to Shanghai. Where did I go? Beijing Airport. One of the most traumatic experiences of airports. Well, and airports are always kind of a traumatic experience, aren't they? Like, there's... When it goes well, it's kind of extraordinary, I find. But man, I was trying to get out of China. Like 10, maybe a week, 7, 10 days earlier than anticipated, and I think some things had kind of happened, and I got to the airport and they were like no one speaks English, just, I mean, which is, I remember when I was there, one of the people I was with was like, the problem here is that no one speaks English. I'm like, mate, the problem is we don't speak Chinese. We're in China. Like, they're not the problem. We're the problem here. But nonetheless, I just got delayed. Well, they kind of took my passport away, and then they came back, and they're like, oh, yada da da, and then look at my ticket some more, and then get another person. And anyway, it was one of those situations where I ended up having to just run through an airport, and I hate that. And I've done it so many times now, to be honest. Just had to boot through an airport, and Beijing Airport is one of those ones where it's like you hoon, and then you've got to get on a tram, and you tram away to another, and the tram only goes one speed. This isn't. Anyway, I think those are all the transfer ones. So the UK, I've got a lot of planes, and trains, but planes that we're just talking about. The UK, obviously London Heathrow, huge, appalling airport, suffers from the same kind of problem, though not to the same extent as LAX, i.e. so busy and can't really stop being busy to fix things. I don't know, it's just a massive airport. I've been there enough times that I'm actually really efficient at getting both in and out of it. Basically, the quicker you can get to the tube to get out of there and into London, kind of the better. And I'm pretty efficient at that, I think. London has its little kind of obviously Heathrow's the big airport, but it also has Gatwick, Luton, and Stansted, which are these three other little kind of airports that are more likely for domestic flights or short-haul flights to Europe, because obviously Europe's just kind of sitting there. They're all awful. All the British airports are awful. Where else? Glasgow. I flew into Glasgow. No, I flew out of Glasgow one time. Forgot I had my multi-tool. Got confiscated. I was pretty miffed about that. It was a gift. Bristol. I've flown into Bristol. I remember more about the bus out of Bristol Airport than Bristol Airport itself. Again, it's just a domestic airport. I think those are all the UK ones. Obviously, you do much less touring about the UK. It's all trains, mate. It's trains. So, fairly minimal airports there. The UK, though, so that's the UK. America's airports. What have I done? JFK. That's a blank, to be honest. Did I fly out of JFK? No. Anyway. What would that have been? What's the airport? Is it Dulles? Maybe it was. Anyway. A brutalist American awful airport. Same as the LAX. Worst airport in the world. God, I hate it. It's so horrible. It is just a concrete slab. And it's too busy to ever be improved. And there's no inclination to ever want to improve it either. And it's horrible to transit through as well. Like, America has always been like, you want to sneak out of transit and into America. It's like, no, I have no interest in that. I honestly I'm trying to get to wherever. I ended up in Washington DC one time. Just in the airport doing, I don't know, I caught a flight one time where I'd lost my voice. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but a bunch of flights got cancelled. And I couldn't really negotiate particularly successfully because I'd lost my voice due to a combination of extreme sickness and doing a show where I talked like Christian Bale's Batman. And then I had to... Anyway, doesn't matter. Let's do Canada real quick. Canada, where was I in Canada? Ottawa Airport, very familiar with Ottawa Airport. One of the few situations where I've been like, I'm going to get there. It says that I'm getting an international flight. I need to be there 3 hours beforehand. And then through a combination of like just messing around by gate staff, almost missing the flight, like getting there 3 hours beforehand and nothing is open. Very exciting. I guess I've been in LAX? San Diego. Maybe San Diego. I guess I was there as well. I can't remember it. This is mostly just listing airports more than the New Zealand ones. Doesn't matter. Calgary, awful airport. Ottawa, fine. Edmonton, fine. I fly out of Edmonton? No, I did. But Vancouver, nice. Really nice airport, actually. Lots of stuff, lots of glass. I feel like I flew out of Halifax as well. I think I flew Halifax to Ottawa one time, but I can't remember. I might be wrong. I do have no recollection of it. Anyway, those are the international airports. That was Season 6, Episode 12, Airports I Have Known. Dan Bain's Time Mumbles is produced by New Octopus Theatre, etc. And is written, it's not written, but it's invented and presented by me, Dan Bain. You can follow it on the internet through many links at the show notes. But until next time, good night. And sleep tight.